Welcome back to the Standing in the Gaps News Deep Dive. As always, we're apolitical here, not left, not right, just diving deep into the facts. And today, we're tackling a figure who's someone who's sparked both admiration and controversy, Pete Hegseth.
Yeah, his trajectory is fascinating. He's gone from, decorated soldier to outspoken media personality,
Yeah.
and now he's potentially in the running for a major role in shaping U.S. defense policy. It's
Yeah.
really a story that touches on, military service, media influence, and the complexities of American politics today.
Exactly. President-elect Trump has nominated him for Secretary of Defense, and that's ignited quite a firestorm of opinions. So we're going to unpack why, drawing on a biographical overview in Hegseth's Wikipedia page. Get a well-rounded picture. And make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and definitely leave your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing from you.
So, starting with the basics, Hegseth was born on June 6th, D-Day, no less, which some might say foreshadowed a life connected to military affairs. Valedictorian in high school, then on to Princeton for a degree in politics. You can already see those threads of ambition and leadership.
Yeah, it's almost like he was destined for a life in the public eye, right?
Right.
But it's his military service that really lays the groundwork for his worldview. Deployments to Guantanamo Bay, Iraq, and Afghanistan, earning 2 Bronze Stars and a Combat Infantryman badge. These aren't just participation trophies. These indicate a significant commitment to serving his country.
Yeah, and that experience likely deeply impacted his perspectives on military policy and national defense. It's important to consider this background when we analyze his later stances and actions.
For sure. And those experiences seem to directly feed into his involvement with conservative veterans groups. He was active with Vets for Freedom, advocating for a stronger troop presence in the Middle East. And then there's Concerned Veterans for America, where he pushed for VA reform.
And these groups, while influential, they weren't without controversy. During Hegseth's time with both organizations, there were allegations of financial mismanagement and personal misconduct, ultimately leading to his departure.
It wasn't all smooth sailing, that's for sure. He even took a shot at elected office, running for Senate in Minnesota back in 2012. It was an unsuccessful bid, but you can see how he was shifting his focus from the battlefield to the political arena.
Right, and that's where his media presence starts to take shape. In 2014, he joins Fox News, quickly becoming a prominent voice on Fox and Friends Weekend.
And who could forget that axe-throwing incident on live TV, accidentally hitting a West Point drummer? Definitely a memorable and somewhat cringeworthy moment. That highlights the unpredictable nature of live television.
Right, and perhaps indicative of a tendency towards actions that some might consider reckless or attention-grabbing. Hegseth certainly knows how to make headlines.
He definitely understands the power of media. And alongside his TV appearances, he's been busy writing too. His book, Battle for the American Mind, became a New York Times bestseller, demonstrating his active role in shaping conservative thought, particularly around education and cultural issues.
Yeah. He's not just commenting on the culture wars, he's trying to actively influence them. And that's something worth considering as we delve deeper into his story. But before we do, make sure you're liking and subscribing to our channel. We're just getting started, and there's a lot more to uncover. Now, while Hegseth's media savvy is clear, his career hasn't been without controversy. His strong advocacy for soldiers accused of war crimes, notably Eddie Gallagher, drew significant attention and raised questions about where the line is between supporting service members and potentially condoning actions that violate the laws of war.
That's a really important point. The complex situation where you have to weigh loyalty to those who served with the need for accountability and upholding the rule of law even in the fog of war.
Exactly. And navigating those complexities isn't always easy. It's important to, consider these situations carefully and avoid rushing to judgment on either side.
Absolutely. We encourage all of you listening to weigh the information thoughtfully and form your own conclusions. And while you're at it, don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments. We love a good discussion. Now, this commitment to advocating for soldiers, however, has also led to controversy of a different nature, particularly concerning a sexual assault allegation against Hegseth in 2017.
Right. A woman accused Hegseth of assault, leading to a police investigation. However, no charges were filed. And the case was ultimately resolved with a non-disclosure agreement and a settlement. It's important to remember that an accusation doesn't automatically equate to guilt, and we need to approach these situations with nuance and avoid jumping to conclusions.
Well said. And this leads us to a deeper exploration of Hegseth's political and social beliefs, the ideas that have made him both a champion to some and a source of intense disagreement for others. He's clearly a staunch conservative, with a strong emphasis on military strength. but he's also been a vocal critic of certain initiatives within the armed forces, like DEI programs.
Hegseth argues that DEI, which stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, prioritizes social engineering over combat readiness. This is a debate that's happening within the military right now, how to balance fostering a diverse and inclusive force with maintaining the highest levels of combat effectiveness.
It's a hot-button issue, no doubt.
Yeah.
And Hegseth doesn't shy away from expressing his views, even using symbolic actions to get his point across. Remember when he crossed out Harvard on his diploma on live TV and wrote critical theory on it?
Yeah. That was a powerful visual, intended to critique what Hegseth sees as a leftist bias within academia. Critical theory, for those unfamiliar, is a broad school of thought that examines power structures and social inequalities. Hegseth's critics argue that his views on these matters oversimplify complex issues and contribute to polarization.
He's definitely not afraid to stir the pot and get people talking. And those strong convictions extend to his beliefs about the state of American politics. He's spoken about the irreconcilable differences between the left and the right, even suggesting the possibility of a national divorce, essentially a separation of the country along ideological lines.
These are loaded terms, and it's important to acknowledge that the concept of a national divorce is highly controversial and rejected by many who see it as a dangerous and divisive idea. It's essential to approach such discussions with sensitivity and a commitment to democratic principles.
Absolutely. Standing in the gaps is all about exploring ideas, not promoting extremism. We encourage respectful dialogue in the comments. Let's keep the conversation civil, everyone.
And building on this, Hegseth has also generated debate with his views on Islam, expressing concerns about what he terms Islamism. It's important to clarify that Islamism is a specific political ideology that seeks to establish Islamic law as the basis of government. It's not synonymous with the broader religion of Islam, which has a diverse range of interpretations and practices.
It's crucial to make that distinction, for sure. These are sensitive topics. And it's important to remember that Hegseth's views don't necessarily represent those of all conservatives, or even all experts on these matters.
Precisely. But they are part of his worldview and offer insight into his approach to issues like foreign policy and national security.
Right. And speaking of foreign policy, we can't forget that Hegseth has been critical of what he views as excessive interventionism in foreign conflicts. He sees a need to refocus on America's core interests and to be more strategic about when and where to deploy military force.
This stance aligns with a segment of the Republican Party that has grown increasingly skeptical of prolonged military engagements abroad, advocating for a more restrained foreign policy.
It's a perspective that's gained traction in recent years, reflecting a broader shift in public opinion regarding America's role in the world. Now, before we dive into the implications of all this for his potential role as Secretary of Defense, let's take a quick pause. If you're finding this deep dive informative, be sure to hit that subscribe button and share it with your friends. We believe in the power of informed debate, and the more perspectives we have, the better. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from Hegseth's military decorations to his evolution as a conservative voice and, of course, the controversies that have trailed him. But the big question looming over all of this is, what kind of impact might he have as Secretary of Defense?
Yeah, it's the million-dollar question, and one that has folks on both sides of the aisle holding their breath. The Secretary of Defense wields immense influence shaping military strategy, budget allocation, the whole direction of the armed forces.
And given Hegseth's strong opinions on things like military spending, foreign intervention, even the role of social initiatives within the military, it's easy to see how his decisions could send ripples throughout the entire defense establishment.
Exactly. He's been a vocal critic of what he sees as, bloated bureaucracy and a focus on woke policies that he believes detract from military readiness. If you were to put these views into action as secretary, we could see some major shifts, everything from recruitment strategies to which weapons systems get prioritized.
And let's not forget his focus on the individual soldier. Hegseth's written a lot about empowering those on the front lines, seeing himself as their advocate in the halls of power.
Right. That message resonates deeply with many service members and veterans, but it also raises questions about how he'd balance that with the strategic thinking and complex management required to lead a global military force.
It's a tough balancing act, for sure. Now, his nomination has unsurprisingly garnered support from those who admire his military background and his unwavering commitment to conservative values. They see him as a strong leader who will shake things up and put the focus back on military might.
On the other hand, though, there's also considerable pushback. Critics point to his lack of experience managing large, intricate organizations like the Department of Defense. His history of provocative statements and the allegations of financial mismanagement and sexual assault also fuel concerns.
So it's a mixed bag with strong arguments on both sides. The Senate confirmation hearings are going to be intense. Senators will demand answers about his past management experience and how his strongly held beliefs might influence his decisions as Secretary of Defense.
Yeah, it's really anyone's guess how this will play out. The Senate is pretty divided right now, and this is a position that often requires bipartisan support. Public opinion is also split, reflecting the deep divisions within American society.
This brings us back to you, our listeners. Given everything we've discussed, what kind of impact do you think Hegseth might have as Secretary of Defense? Do you think his military background and conservative values would make him an effective leader, or are you concerned about his lack of experience in large-scale management and his sometimes controversial stances?
Yeah, jump into the comments and let us know your thoughts. We want to hear from all sides. This is a conversation that deserves careful consideration.
And speaking of conversations, we at Standing in the Gaps are committed to bringing you in-depth deep dives like this one. But we can't do it without your support. If you value our commitment to exploring different perspectives and providing unbiased analysis, please consider contributing to our GoFundMe campaign.
Your donations help us reach a wider audience and improve our production quality. We're talking better webcams, studio microphones, and editing computers, all the things that make these deep dives possible. Every bit helps.
So that's Pete Hegseth, a complex figure whose journey has taken him from the battlefields of Iraq to the studios of Fox News, and now, potentially, to the helm of the U.S. Department of Defense. It's a story that reflects the tensions and divisions within American society, and the outcome of his nomination remains uncertain.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the life and career of Pete Hegseth. We hope you've gained a deeper understanding of this influential and controversial figure.
And as always, we encourage you to stay engaged, keep asking questions, and participate in the ongoing dialogue about the issues that shape our world. We'll see you in the comments.